Welcome to another episode of InvestorPool. Today I have Chris from NextGen Property Mgmt joining us. InvestorPool is a carpool series that's all about real estate, finance, improving your knowledge, and through the guests that we bring on, improving your income. Chris has years of experience as an investor with a massive multi-million-dollar property portfolio. He's also an experienced property manager, and I can't wait to have him on the show. All right, Chris, thank you for joining us on another episode of InvestorPool. Appreciate having you on.
Great to be here. Can't believe I'm in the car.
Look, I really wanted to get you on because I think the area you specialize in is something that many investors sometimes forget about after they own the property and sort of just let it passively hang about. But you yourself are running NextGen Property Management, is that right?
That's right. That's my agency here in Sydney, and we cover Southwest Sydney, Inner West, Canterbury Bankstown, so we've got a pretty wide area.
So what got you thinking about property management and running a business in that field in terms of the background?
So I'm an investor myself, so I've been investing for over 20 years. My background is in IT, so I spent many years in the corporate world and never really happy with my property managers myself. I always thought there's a better way to do it. So a bit late in my corporate life, I thought I needed another challenge. So I wanted to start my own business, and I wanted to find something in real estate. So where the opportunities and what am I good at to marry my skills with. So property management was what's the business for me.
Right, and you touched on a pretty important point when you said there were a couple of things I was unhappy about before it started making yourself think about why don't I just do it, right?
Yeah.
What were those things that stood out to you?
I think it was everybody was a lot of my property managers were starting well, but as the time went by, sort of communication stopped, care stopped, and I was just losing trust. I'd have a vacancy, for example, and it'd be weeks I wouldn't hear anything, and then you're busy with your life, and next thing you know, 3 weeks have gone past, and the mortgage is coming up, and no idea about what happened, and so, I just didn't feel the property managers understood me as an investor, as a landlord. They didn't understand, for example, that I've got a mortgage coming up at the end of the month, and that rent is important for me to make up the payment. So, it's just it is. I have to say, having been in the industry now for a couple of years with my business, it's I have to say, property management is not easy. It's hard work. I can understand why people, sort of the drop, the drop the ball every now and then. It's hard work. There's very few things as a property manager, I guess, that are exciting, so to speak. It's just all you deal with is issues, legislation, regulations, and things like that. So, and it's not a 9-to-5 job, Arjun, either. So, just because 5 o'clock comes, it doesn't mean that tenants, they turn off their, all properties or issues stop coming in. So you have to, work hard at it, and that's all of those things sort of meant that I wasn't really happy, and thought it was a better way to do things. I mean,
that it really explains, I guess, the life and the world of a property manager. But I mean, when investors, I think, look to rent out their property, that I feel sometimes is last on their mind. They sometimes focus so much on the property that they buy. Yeah. I mean, what tips do you feel you can give to investors who are considering buying a property when they should consider the rental and the management side of it?
So you're absolutely right. So people, the whole excitement of property investing is get the big deal, sign, and then you set and forget. And in my experience, this doesn't work. You can't outsource it to someone and expect your investment to continue to grow or your rents to continue to go up. So I'll give you an example. A couple of months ago, we picked up a property, and the owner had it for a few years. Never really happy with the property manager, but anyway, eventually there was a big screw up, and he said, "Okay, Chris, you look after it." Yeah. When I looked at the rent, it hadn't been increased in 3 or 4 years. So it was an apartment in the CBD, and when I looked at it, it was $100 less weekly rent than every other property. Other properties that were advertised at that time. So that's a lot of money, right? Yeah. But he had no idea. He was busy. Never looked into it. That's like more than $5,000 a year. So you're right. I think you can't set and forget. You always need to manage your property manager if you can. Like, keep an eye on things, and it's not that hard, right? You can have a look at realestate.com.au on domain and see what's going on in my suburb. I mean, I always did it. And I always ask my property managers, how come, my rent is like $30? I can see that property down the road similar. So you can't just outsource it. You have to be on it if you want to make the most out of it. That's one of the things I would say.
So I think what's really sticking out from what you're saying is that people really shouldn't just expect that the excitement's over, the deal's done, you're onto it. You really need to look after it. It's an investment after all.
Yes, it is. And if you treat it as a business, it needs to be treated that way as well. So nobody's going to look after your investment better than you. That's the bottom line. And forgetting it, and so many examples, people look back and they realize that they could have done a little more. I mean, the other thing as well that I'm noticing is properties deteriorate as time goes by, so you can't just
important point.
You can't forget it. And property manager doesn't really care, and it's not the it's just the job. They don't really care, to tell you that your kitchen probably needs replacing next year, or what we can do with a lick of paint, because it's going to help you with the rent. The next time we rent it, or you get a better rental hotel, or it's going to stop deteriorating your property. So it needs to be treated as a business. You just can't forget it.
Yeah, I think that's one of my favorite sayings. Property is a business, right? When you think of the business, the tenants are our customers, and in a way, I feel like when you're looking after those customers, I'd be interested to know, I guess, from your thoughts, what are the things that really can delight the tenant, can make the investment work out better for you? Because why not focus on a win-win, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I have to say, and a tip for everybody: if your property manager is not good communicating with you, I can guarantee you they're not very good at looking after the tenant as well, because you paying the bills and you never hear back from them. Imagine the tenant who's out there. So my view is it's a partnership, and it needs to be treated that way, and respectful between the landlord, the tenant, and the property manager in the middle. And the tenant needs to be treated that way. You look after your tenant, they'll stay there longer, they'll look after the property, they're happy with a little increase. If they know that you care for them, if they know you, when there's an issue, you'll jump onto it. They want to know they get looked after. I've got every respect for the tenants, because they're part of the deal. At the end of the day, they help me pay my mortgages as a landlord, so I understand that and I respect that. The other thing, Arjun, as well, I've been a tenant myself. Wasn't always a landlord, and I wasn't treated that well, so I know what that feels like. I would strongly believe that you need to look after your tenant. And I'll tell you, in our business, there's two of us.
Yep.
The lady that works for me, when she came to meet, she said, I'm going to be an advocate for the tenant. And I said, great, because I'm an advocate for the landlord. I get it. I know what that's like. So that balances me out as well. So I respect that, and we put a lot of effort in our relationship with the tenants, because we know it pays in the long run. How
do you, I guess, think about the tenant experience, the landlord experience, incorporating technology today? Yeah,
the world's changed. It's not what it used to be. Technology is everywhere. We're a digital-first business, which means we've got no paper.
That's always nice.
It's very nice. We use DocuSign, for example, for signing agreements, and everything's on the cloud. And you know what? We don't have the big offices, but we're everywhere because we can on our phones. I know exactly what's going on in every suburb. We're mobile and we're a lot more flexible. The other thing as well is it helps us with communication as well. So we've got portals. I've been an owner for landlord for so many years, and nobody said, here's a nice portal, just log on and have a look and see, see what's happening with your property. So, and it's out there. It's just that the industry is a little bit, I don't know, they don't like technology, I guess, but the technology is there, and we're using it to the max. And yes, it helps that I've got an IT background, and I love technology. The other way technology helps us is I've streamlined everything. So, for example, a month end takes minutes, and that's me looking at every statement. Payroll takes minutes, but which means that I spend more time looking after the business as opposed to pushing papers around. So our whole business is streamlined from So I was saying before, the month end takes minutes because everything is done and everything is automated, and yeah, couldn't be happier with that aspect of the business.
There's also been a rise in the people looking to self-manage property, right?
Yeah.
And I find that, personally speaking, I mean, it's not easy. I wouldn't do it. I know others would. But I hear that, you know, there are some really important things people should know that, you know, people might be making mistakes on by self-managing.
Yeah.
Or what are some of those things out there that people should be aware of?
Yeah, I mean, you see in forums all the time, people are looking to save, you know, $1 here and there. But I have to tell you, property management is complicated on all aspects of it. And, you know, if things go well, all you do is collect the rent. Sure, that's easy. Anybody can do that. The problem is, you know, when you start hitting issues and you have to know what you're doing. For example, I don't know if you're aware of the new domestic violence laws that came into New South Wales a couple of weeks ago. So I've got that issue that I'm dealing with at the moment.
Right. Wow.
So what do? You know, so
I wouldn't have a clue, right? Even as an investor. So.
That's right. So there's a lot of protection that came in for people, for tenants that are victims of domestic violence, and they can break lease without penalties and all sorts of things. But you got to know how you handle it, because this particular instance, for example, a tenant's left their goods behind. So what do you do with all of that, and what are your rights? How did she serve their notice to say, and what evidence did it supply to show that it is truly a domestic violence incident? So you got to know what you're looking for, and you need to be able to pick, how to deal with lawyers, for example, understand exactly what's their position, so that I can protect the landlord as well. I mean, that's just
so many elements to it, right? I mean, yeah. I always compare it to firefighters, right?
Yeah.
The fireman example. Why I think of that is, if there were no fires everywhere, I mean, people would think that, why do we need something, right? But then when they happen, they go, well, we need someone who's trained, knows rules, regulations, situations they can handle, and then they just go out there and solve what you need to solve, right? Yeah. And I couldn't imagine myself, getting out of the fire without the help of someone like that. Right? So, I mean, when you think of like property management, what are the biggest myths out there? I think there's so many things in investors' minds. What are the biggest myths?
I think it's exactly what you said. Everybody thinks that it's easy, and I'll tell you, I'm the first to tell you, I thought the same. So when I decided to get in, I thought, surely there must be, can't be that hard. But it is hard, Arjun. And it's hard because as a property manager, I have to tell you, there's few joys in the profession. You're dealing with issues most of the time. And also, I think, as I was saying to you the other day, you have to be the complete package. The job is always there, but on one hand, you have to be amazing with people, caring, empathetic. You have to be all those things. Then you have to be amazing with legislation. So I have to deal with lawyers and understand clauses and know the Tenancy Act inside out. On the other hand, you've got all the grunt work. I have to go and do an inspection, a routine inspection. I have to be on my knees and take photos, and I can see what's happening behind, closed doors and all of those things. So on one hand, you have to be amazing people skills. On the other hand, you have to be very diligent and disciplined. Yeah. So you can't do it unless, an amazing communicator. I mean, that's the other thing as well. So you have to be the complete package. You can't. It's not a set and forget. Like, for example, if I was to compare with your profession, you sign someone up, you find them a great property, and I know you do that all the time, but at some point sort of that relationship stops, and then it's a sort of a symbiotic relationship. You go and visit them, but for us it's ongoing. It's tedious, it's hard work, and you have to be the complete package, otherwise you will not be successful.
Yeah, and I think with investors out there, I mean, knowing all this difficulty around it, it makes it more of the reason to have the right manager on board. What are the top 3 tips you can give to someone trying to contemplate the best manager for their fit?
So what I would say is find someone. If they're an investor themselves, that'll be the best thing to do, because they understand you as a landlord. That's one thing. Your typical property manager is probably a career real estate agent. They're not necessarily an investor, but that would be something that I would tell people to look out for. The other thing I would say is look for specialists. In the real estate industry, property management is the boring arm. It's all about sales. So big offices have, it's all about the sales. That's the exciting thing. That's what brings in the big money. You've got the rental at the back. So look for specialists that just look after property managers, they do it for a living. That's all they do. They do one thing and they do well.
Right.
I mean, in my business, I don't even do commercial real estate because I know that property management, because I know that's a different ball game. I might look into that in the future, but I haven't done that for the time being.
Right.
And the last thing I would say is, look, ask how many people, how big is the rent roll, and how many people look after it. Because the other big issue that I'm seeing is, especially the big offices, they've got hundreds of properties, and there's some offices, literally the rent rolls are like 400, 500 properties, and they've got 2 or 3 people looking after them, and so the more properties you have, the less time you have to deal with issues.
Yeah, that's true.
And you can see that. I mean, evidence is, turnaround of stuff as well. So a lot of people, a lot of property managers, because it is a hard job, they leave the profession, or they change jobs all the time. I think the average on those big offices is 12 months. After 12 months,
wow,
people
I didn't know that.
move out. It's something like that. People, you'll know that you're on a good deal if you've got stability. So and you know the person. Ideally, you deal with one person. It's the other thing that I know as well. Bigger offices, they've got someone that deals with the repairs, someone else deals with rent, someone else with so you deal with 3 or 4 people. So you don't know who your property manager is.
Yeah, and I think what I liked about that, Chris, is none of those 3 points had anything to do with the price. Because what's really important about that is sometimes people go hunting around property managers like they do insurance, right? That insurance at that place was $930, while insurance over here is $899. I'm coming to you.
Yeah.
That's all mine. With those points and price in mind, I think, do you feel that there is something that people should really look in the deeper, the terms or the conditions or something when they're considering all these price comparisons all the time?
Well, it's what you said. I mean, you always get what you pay for, and people do look for the cheapest property manager, and they're trying to bargain and negotiate. But the reality is, if you pay less, then something needs to give. So, and that's normally the service, the care, and you do pay for that in the long run. So, if you forget to do, like I was saying before, a rent review when you need to, and it happens all the time. That's what the reason is. That it's not that people don't know how to do the rent reviews, or that they don't know that's important. It's just they haven't got any time to do it. So when an agency markets himself as its cheapest, and there's quite a few that do that, then something needs to give, which is normally service and quality of service, and you pay for that in the long run. And as I was saying before, for that customer of ours, that was $5,000 a year.
That's massive.
When you think about it, the difference between a 4%, 5%, or 6%, which is tax deductible anyway, it's dollars, at the end of the day. So it's nothing. So.
And I think the difference between any fee comparison would have nowhere near been at that $5,000, right?
It wouldn't be. It wouldn't be. So I mean, I do say a lot of people come to me and they start the conversation with, "What's your fee structure?" And I go, "Don't worry about that for now. Let's just see if we can work together. Are you a landlord that understands that this is a business? So when I call you and tell you, for example, that there's an issue with your property, will you try and fight it back and go, no, I'm not doing that, or don't worry about the tenant, or do you understand that this is a business, same as I do?"
Interesting question.
So always look, I always look for landlords that sort of think a bit like me, that, I hate pettiness.
Yeah.
People argue with me like, "Oh, do I really need another set of keys?" Which is like $5, but people do it, and you go, well, it doesn't matter, it's like, look after your tenant, because in the long run they'll stay there. If they decide to go because it'll still cost you $1,000 or $2,000 by the time we fill up a vacancy.
Mate, thank you so much for the tips. It was awesome being in the car with you here today. If anyone would like to reach out to Chris, how can they reach you?
Well, my business, as you said, is called NextGen Property Mgmt. You can find me on the website. We're also on got a Facebook page as well. People can reach me anywhere they want, and I'm sure through you, Arjun. But I would, I'd love if anybody has any problems with the rentals, or with a property manager, if they want a second opinion, I'll be more than happy to help them. And there's no need to think that there's anything behind it. I just love, I love helping people, and I'm in London myself, so I understand the issues. They can reach out to me and ask for any help they want.
Awesome. Another way you can also reach out to Chris, guys, is there's a fantastic Facebook group called Property Talk. please do jump on that if you are a property investor or looking to get into property investing. Chris is one of the admins there, and he does a fantastic job supporting the community alongside Eric. Thanks, Chris, again. And for us, see you later on another episode of InvestorPool.